He left me when my hair was falling out in clumps in the shower. When I was too weak to stand after chemo. When I needed him most. My name is Sarah. I'm 55 years old. And I'm about to tell you a story about the man who abandoned me during the fight of my life, and what happened when he came back 5 years later. But before I start, I need you here with me. Drop your city or country in the comments right now. Tell me where you're watching from. And please hit that subscribe button because I share true stories like this every single day. Real stories about betrayal, survival, and what happens when the universe has other plans. This story takes place over a decade. It involves a marriage that lasted 18 years until a breast cancer diagnosis destroyed it in 3 months. A man who said in sickness and in health, but meant only in health. A woman who had to learn how to survive alone when she thought she'd die alone. And a phone call 5 years later that changed everything. When David left me in 2014, I was 45 years old, halfway through chemotherapy, and convinced I was going to die. Not from cancer. From the heartbreak of watching the man I'd loved for 18 years walk out the door because he couldn't handle seeing me like this. 3 months. That's how long he lasted after my diagnosis. 18 years of marriage, and he made it 3 months into my treatment before he was gone. I survived the cancer. Barely. But I survived. And I rebuilt my life from nothing. Learned who I was without him. Learned what I was capable of when left with no choice but to be strong. 5 years passed. 5 years of healing. Of becoming someone new. Of creating a life I never imagined I'd have. And then he called. Said he needed to see me. That it was urgent. That he'd made a terrible mistake. And then he told me why. He had cancer. Lung cancer. Stage 3. And he was terrified. And he wanted me back. Needed me. Begged me to help him through it the way he should have helped me. I won't tell you yet what I said. What I did. How this story ends. Because you need to understand everything that came before. Everything he did. Everything I survived. Everything I became in those 5 years between his abandonment and his desperate phone call. This is that story. From the beginning. From the moment I heard the words, "You have cancer," to the moment I had to decide what those words meant when they came out of his mouth. Drop your comments. Subscribe. Because this story is about more than cancer. It's about what we owe the people who hurt us. About survival and strength. About becoming the person who lives through what should have destroyed you. And about what happens when karma comes calling 5 years later. Let's start in Denver, 2014. The year my life fell apart. The year I learned exactly who I could count on. David and I met in 1996 in Denver, Colorado. I was 27, working as a nurse at Presbyterian/St. Luke's Medical Center. He was 29, a sales manager for a medical supply company. We met when he came to pitch products to our hospital. He was charming. Funny. Persistent in a way that felt flattering rather than pushy. We dated for 6 months. Got engaged on New Year's Eve 1997 at Lookout Mountain, overlooking the city lights. Married in June 1998 at a small ceremony in Estes Park. Bought a house in Littleton, a suburb south of Denver. Built what I thought was a solid life. We didn't have kids. We'd tried for years. Infertility issues on both sides. By our 40s, we'd made peace with it. Focused on our careers, our friends, travel. We went to Yellowstone every summer. Took weekend trips to Breckenridge in winter. Had a group of couples we did trivia night with every Thursday at a pub in Cherry Creek. Life was good. Not perfect, but good. Comfortable. The kind of marriage where you finish each other's sentences. Where you have routines and inside jokes and a shared history that feels unbreakable. Until March 2014. When I found the lump. I was in the shower. Doing a self-exam the way nurses are trained to do. My fingers found something that shouldn't be there. A hard mass in my left breast. About the size of a marble. Irregular edges. Mobile but distinct. I knew immediately. 18 years as a nurse, you know. You just know. I told David that night. We were sitting in the living room. Broncos game on TV. I turned the volume down. Said we needed to talk. Told him I'd found something. That I was scheduling a mammogram, but I already knew. Could feel it in my gut. Breast cancer. He went pale. Said I was probably overreacting. That lumps are usually benign. That we shouldn't panic. His hand shook when he took a sip of his beer. He wasn't good with medical stuff. Never had been. Fainted once when I had to get stitches after cutting my hand making dinner. The mammogram was April 3rd, callback the next day for ultrasound. Biopsy April 9th, results April 15th. Invasive ductal carcinoma. Stage 2. Estrogen receptor positive. HER2 negative. Treatment plan, surgery, chemotherapy, radiation, hormone therapy. I was 45 years old. And I had breast cancer. The thing every woman fears. The disease that had killed my aunt at 52. The diagnosis that changes everything in an instant. David held my hand when the oncologist explained the treatment plan. Dr. Patricia Chen at Rocky Mountain Cancer Centers. Excellent doctor. Compassionate. Clear. She laid it all out. Lumpectomy first. Then 6 rounds of chemotherapy every 3 weeks. 4 months of poison pumped into my veins. Then radiation. Then 5 years of tamoxifen. You're going to beat this, Dr. Chen said. The prognosis is good. But it's going to be hard. You're going to need support. David nodded. Squeezed my hand. Said all the right things in the office. We'll get through this together. Whatever you need. I'm here. The lumpectomy was May 12, 2014. Successful. Clean margins. Lymph nodes negative. Good news, Dr. Chen said. Very good news. The cancer hadn't spread beyond the breast. Chemotherapy would be aggressive but preventative. Killing any microscopic cells that might be hiding. Giving me the best chance at long-term survival. Recovery from surgery took 2 weeks. David was attentive at first. Brought me soup. Changed my surgical dressings. Helped me shower those first few days when I couldn't lift my left arm. But I could see it in his eyes. The discomfort. The way he'd look at the incision and his face would go tight. The way he'd make excuses to leave the room. I have a call for work. I need to run to Home Depot. The lawn needs mowing. Always something. Always a reason not to sit with me. Not to look at what cancer had done to my body. Chemotherapy started June 2nd. The first infusion was 5 hours in a recliner chair at the cancer center, hooked up to and 4, poison dripping into my port, David sitting beside me scrolling through his phone. Other patients around us. Some alone. Some with partners who held their hands. Who read to them. Who seemed present. David kept checking the time. Asked the nurse 3 times how much longer. Said he had a meeting that afternoon he couldn't miss. Left an hour before my infusion finished. My friend Rachel picked me up. Drove me home. Sat with me while I threw up for the first time. While I learned what chemo nausea actually feels like. David got home at 8 that night. Said the meeting ran late. Dinner with clients after. He smelled like beer and restaurant food. Didn't ask how I felt. Just said he was tired and went to bed. The pattern established itself quickly. I'd schedule infusions. He'd promised to come. Would show up for the first hour then make excuses to leave. Work emergencies. Client meetings. Obligations he couldn't reschedule. Always something more important than sitting with his wife while chemicals tried to save her life. By the third infusion, I stopped asking him to come. Rachel took me. Sat through all 5 hours. Held my hand. Brought me ginger ale and crackers. Drove me home and stayed until the worst of the nausea passed. My hair started falling out in July. 18 days after the second infusion. I was in the shower. Ran my fingers through my hair and it came out in clumps. Wet dark strands coating my hands. Circling the drain. I stood there watching my hair disappear. Watching cancer take another piece of who I was. I shaved my head that night. Didn't want to watch it fall out slowly. Wanted control over something. Anything. Rachel came over with her husband's clippers. We sat in the bathroom. She shaved my head while I cried. Told me I was beautiful. That hair doesn't define me. That I was the strongest person she knew. David came home while Rachel was still there. Walked into the bathroom. Saw me bald for the first time. His face went white. He stammered something about needing to make a call. Disappeared into his office. Didn't come out until Rachel left. That night in bed, he couldn't look at me. Kept his eyes on the TV. When I tried to talk about it, asked if my appearance bothered him, he denied it. Said he was just stressed about work. That he was dealing with a lot. That this was hard for him too. Hard for him. I was the one with cancer. With poison in my veins. With no hair. With scars from surgery. But it was hard for him. August 2014. 3 months after my diagnosis. Halfway through chemotherapy. I was at my lowest point physically. Nauseous constantly. Exhausted. Weak. Mouth sores made eating painful. My taste buds were destroyed. Everything tasted like metal. I'd lost 15 pounds. Looked skeletal. And that's when David told me he couldn't do it anymore. We were in the kitchen. Morning. I was trying to eat oatmeal. He was making coffee. Avoiding eye contact like he'd been doing for weeks. And then he just said it. Casual. Like he was commenting on the weather. I can't handle this anymore, Sarah. I can't watch you go through this. It's too much. I need space. I stared at him. Spoon halfway to my mouth. Unable to process what he'd just said. Space? I'm going to stay at Mark's place for a while. Just until you're through treatment. Until things go back to normal. Until things go back to normal. As if cancer was a temporary inconvenience. As if I was choosing to be sick. As if my body was betraying him rather than me. David, I have 3 more rounds of chemo. Then radiation. Months of treatment. You're leaving now? It's not leaving. It's space. I can't see you like this. Can't watch you suffer. It's killing me. It's killing him. I had cancer. And my suffering was killing him. I need you, I said. Voice breaking. I can't do this alone. You're not alone. You have Rachel. Your sister. Your mom. You have people. I have a husband. I have you. We made vows. In sickness and in health. He wouldn't look at me. Just stared at his coffee cup. I know what we promised. But I didn't know it would be this hard. Didn't know what it would actually mean. I'm sorry, Sarah. I really am. But I have to think about my own mental health too. He left that afternoon. Packed a bag. Said he'd be in touch about logistics. About the house. About our life. Just walked out while I was too weak to chase him. Too shocked to fight. My husband of 16 years left me in the middle of chemotherapy because watching me have cancer was too hard for him. I sat on the couch for hours after he left. Bald. Weak. Alone. Feeling the kind of abandonment that's worse than the cancer. Because cancer was something happening to me. This was something someone chose. Someone I loved. Someone who promised to stay. Rachel found me there that evening. Let herself in with the key I'd given her. Sat beside me. Held me while I cried. Didn't say anything. Just held me. Because what can you say when someone's husband leaves them during the fight of their life? I finished chemotherapy alone. 3 more infusions. September, early October, late October. Rachel took me to every one. Sat through every 5-hour session. Held my hand. Made me laugh when I felt like dying. Was the partner David should have been but wasn't. David texted occasionally. Asked how I was doing. Surface level. Impersonal. Like I was an acquaintance rather than his wife. Never asked to come back. Never said he'd made a mistake. Just checked in enough to ease his own guilt without actually having to show up. I learned later from his coworker's wife that he'd started seeing someone. Jessica. 32 years old. Healthy. Blonde. Everything I wasn't while bald and battling cancer. They'd met at a work conference in August. The same month he told me he needed space for his mental health. He hadn't left because my suffering was too much. He'd left because someone younger and healthier had paid attention to him. And cancer gave him the perfect excuse to walk away. I filed for divorce in December 2014. Right after finishing radiation. Didn't fight over assets. Just wanted it done. Wanted him gone legally the way he'd already gone emotionally. The divorce was final March 2015. 18 years of marriage. Over. Because cancer made me inconvenient. Because vows only counted when life was easy. Because the man I'd trusted with my life decided that my life wasn't worth staying for. But here's what David didn't know when he walked out. What he couldn't have anticipated. What would come back to him 5 years later with perfect, cosmic irony. Abandoning me didn't save him from anything. It just meant he'd face his own reckoning alone. And karma, I would learn, has a long memory and a brutal sense of timing. Radiation started in November 2014. Every weekday for 6 weeks. 30 sessions total. At the University of Colorado Hospital's Radiation Oncology Department. 15 minutes a day lying perfectly still on a table while invisible beams targeted the tissue where my tumor had been. Radiation was easier than chemo. No nausea. No hair loss, because I had no hair left to lose. But it had its own exhaustion. A deep, bone-tired weariness that accumulated over weeks. And burns. The skin on my left breast turned red, then dark, then started to peel like a bad sunburn. Painful. Tender. Another reminder that my body was a battlefield. Rachel drove me to most appointments. My mom flew out from Ohio for 2 weeks in November to help. My sister Emily drove up from Colorado Springs on weekends. They formed a rotation. Made sure I was never alone. Made sure I ate. Made sure I showed up to every appointment even when I wanted to give up. David texted twice during those 6 weeks. Both times asking if I'd signed the divorce papers yet. Not asking how radiation was going. Not asking if I was okay. Just administrative questions about dissolving our marriage while I was still fighting to stay alive. I signed the papers the day after my last radiation session. December 19, 2014. Sitting at Rachel's kitchen table. Her watching me with sad eyes. Knowing this was one more loss on top of everything else I'd lost that year. My breast. My hair. My marriage. My sense of security. My belief that people stay when things get hard. All gone. But I was alive. The scans in January 2015 showed no evidence of disease. Ned. The two most beautiful letters in cancer language. No evidence of disease. Not cured, breast cancer doesn't work that way, but in remission. Surviving. Given a second chance. Dr. Chen started me on tamoxifen. A daily pill I'd take for 5 years to block estrogen and reduce recurrence risk. Side effects included hot flashes, night sweats, joint pain, and increased risk of blood clots. But compared to chemo, it felt like nothing. Just one pill. Every morning. A small price for hopefully staying cancer-free. The divorce was final in March 2015. 16 years of marriage dissolved in a courtroom in downtown Denver. I didn't attend the hearing. My lawyer handled it. David got the house. I didn't want it anymore, didn't want to live in the place he'd abandoned me. I got half the retirement accounts and my car. Split everything down the middle and walked away. I heard through mutual friends that he'd moved Jessica into our house within 2 weeks of the divorce being final. The house we'd bought together in 1999. Where we'd hosted Thanksgiving dinners and Christmas mornings. Where I'd come home from my mastectomy and chemo sessions. She was living there now. Sleeping in our bed. Probably redecorating. Erasing me. It hurt less than I expected. Maybe because I was already so broken that one more crack didn't register. Or maybe because anger was starting to replace grief. Anger is useful. Anger gets you out of bed. Makes you want to survive just to prove something. To someone. To yourself. I moved into a small apartment in Capitol Hill in April 2015. 1 bedroom. Walking distance to Rachel's place. Started rebuilding. Slowly. One day at a time. The way they tell you to do it in cancer support groups. I'd started attending a breast cancer support group at Rocky Mountain Cancer Centers in February. Every Wednesday evening. 8 to 10 women sitting in a circle, sharing our stories. Our fears. Our small victories. Women in active treatment. Women in remission. Women facing recurrence. All of us bound by this disease we never asked for. That's where I met Linda. 62. 15-year survivor. Vibrant. Funny. Proof that life existed on the other side of this nightmare. She became a mentor. Told me the first year after treatment is the hardest. Your body heals, but your mind takes longer. The fear stays. Every ache becomes cancer. Every doctor's appointment brings panic. You have to learn to live with uncertainty. Learn to trust your body again after it betrayed you. My hair grew back slowly. Short. Curly. Darker than before. Chemo curl, they call it. Some women's hair comes back completely different. Mine did. I barely recognized myself in the mirror. Which was maybe for the best. I wasn't who I'd been before. Couldn't be her anymore. Had to figure out who this new version of Sarah was. I went back to work part-time in May 2015. Presbyterian/St. Luke's held my position. Legally they had to under FMLA, but they were also genuinely supportive. My coworkers had organized fundraisers during my treatment. Meal trains. Gift cards. The nursing community takes care of its own. But being back in the hospital was harder than I expected. Seeing cancer patients. Knowing what they were facing. What their families were facing. Wondering if their partners would stay or leave like mine did. I had to excuse myself to cry in the bathroom more than once during those first weeks back. I worked 3 12-hour shifts a week instead of my previous 4. Needed the extra day to rest. To go to follow-up appointments. To just exist without demands. My body was still recovering. Would be for years. Cancer treatment doesn't end when treatment ends. The fatigue lingers. The cognitive effects of chemo brain make simple tasks harder. You're forever changed. David and Jessica got engaged in July 2015. I found out through Facebook. A mutual friend posted congratulations. There was David, smiling, holding Jessica's hand, showing off a diamond ring. 6 months after our divorce was final. Less than a year after he'd left me during chemo. The rage that hit me was physical. Hot. Consuming. He couldn't stay with me through cancer, but he could propose to someone else 6 months later. He couldn't handle me bald and sick, but he could plan a future with a woman he'd been cheating with while I was fighting for my life. Rachel talked me down from doing something stupid. From commenting on the Facebook post. From calling him. From showing up at his house. Reminded me that my revenge was survival. That the best thing I could do was live. Thrive. Become someone he'd regret leaving. But God, it hurt. Still hurts when I think about it. The injustice of it. The cruelty. That he got to move on so easily while I was still picking up pieces of who I used to be. By late 2015, I was stable physically. Emotionally was another story. I was seeing a therapist. Dr. Margaret Torres. Specializing in medical trauma and relationship betrayal. She helped me process the double trauma of cancer and abandonment. Helped me understand that David's leaving wasn't about me. Wasn't my fault. Was his failure. His weakness. His inability to handle reality when reality got uncomfortable. But knowing something intellectually and feeling it emotionally are different things. I still woke up some mornings feeling worthless. Unlovable. Damaged. Like cancer had marked me permanently as someone who gets left. Dr. Torres introduced me to the concept of post-traumatic growth. The idea that trauma can lead to positive change. Increased strength. Deeper appreciation for life. Better relationships. New possibilities. Not that trauma is good, it's not, but that surviving it can transform you into someone stronger than you were before. I wanted to believe that. Wanted to believe I could be more than just a survivor. More than just someone who'd been abandoned and betrayed. Wanted to believe that somewhere on the other side of this pain was a life worth living. In early 2016, I made a decision. I needed a fresh start. Needed to leave Denver. Too many memories. Too much history. Every street corner reminded me of something. The restaurant where David proposed. The park where we used to walk. The grocery store where I'd run into his coworkers who'd look at me with pity. Rachel understood. Didn't want me to go but understood. Said I needed to do what was right for me. That friendship would survive distance. I started researching cities. Warmer climate for my radiation-damaged skin and tamoxifen-aching joints. Good hospitals in case of recurrence. Affordable. Not too big. Not too small. Somewhere I could disappear and rebuild and become someone new. Phoenix, Arizona kept coming up. Warm. Dry. Growing city. Excellent cancer centers. Far enough from Denver that I wouldn't accidentally run into David. Far enough that I could breathe. I applied for nursing positions at several Phoenix hospitals. Got 3 offers. Accepted a position at Banner Good Samaritan Medical Center in downtown Phoenix. Oncology floor. It felt right. Using my experience to help other cancer patients. Turning my trauma into purpose. I gave notice at Presbyterian/St. Luke's in April 2016. My last day was May 15th. Coworkers threw me a going-away party. Gave me a cactus in a pot, for your new desert home. Hugged me. Told me I was brave. I didn't feel brave. Just felt like someone running away. But sometimes running away is the bravest thing you can do. Rachel helped me pack. We cried loading boxes into the U-Haul. 20 years of friendship. She'd been there through everything. My wedding. My infertility struggles. My diagnosis. My treatment. My divorce. And now she was watching me leave. "You're going to be amazing," she said. "You're going to build something beautiful in Phoenix. And I'm going to visit all the time. I couldn't have survived without you," I told her. Meaning it. Knowing it was literally true. Without Rachel, I might not have made it through chemo. Might not have made it through the darkness after David left. She'd been my person when my person left. I drove to Phoenix on May 20th, 2016. 12 hours. U-Haul full of everything I owned. Starting over at 47 years old. 2 years out from diagnosis. Still taking tamoxifen. Still having nightmares about cancer coming back. Still not sure who I was or who I was becoming. But alive. And free. And ready to find out what life could be when you stopped waiting for someone else to define it for you. Phoenix was hot. Brutally hot in late May. But it felt cleansing somehow. Like the heat was burning away everything I'd been in Denver. Leaving space for whatever came next. I rented a small house in the Arcadia neighborhood. 2 bedrooms. Cute. Walking distance to the hospital. Started my new job in June. Met new coworkers. Made small talk about being new to Phoenix. Didn't mention cancer right away. Didn't want it to be the first thing people knew about me. Wanted to just be Sarah. Nurse. New to town. Building a life. It was lonely at first. Phoenix in summer is isolating. Too hot to be outside. Everyone in air conditioning. I worked. Came home. Watched TV. Talked to Rachel on the phone. Went to follow-up appointments at the Mayo Clinic, best cancer center in Arizona. Dr. Chen had made sure my records transferred properly. But slowly, Phoenix started to feel like home. I joined a yoga class in September when the heat broke. Met a few women who became coffee friends. Started hiking Camelback Mountain on Saturday mornings. Found a new breast cancer support group. Built a routine. And for the first time since diagnosis, I started to feel like maybe I could be happy. Not the same happy as before. Not the innocent happiness of someone who hasn't been betrayed by both body and husband. But a deeper, harder one happiness. The kind that comes from surviving. From knowing you can handle the worst and still wake up the next morning. I turned 48 in December 2016. Spent my birthday hiking with my new yoga friends. Felt strong. Healthy. Grateful. 3 years out from diagnosis. Still cancer-free. Living in a place where nobody knew my history unless I chose to share it. David called that day. My birthday. First time I'd heard his voice since the divorce. I almost didn't answer. But curiosity won. "Hey Sarah. Just wanted to say happy birthday." "Thanks." Cold. Guarded. "How are you? I heard you moved to Phoenix." "I'm good. Really good actually." Silence. Like he expected more. Expected me to ask about him. About Jessica. I didn't. "That's great. I'm glad you're doing well. I wanted you to know I think about you sometimes. Hope you're okay." "I'm more than okay, David. I survived. No thanks to you." I hung up. Hands shaking. Heart pounding. But also powerful. Like I'd taken back something. Hadn't given him the satisfaction of my pain or my forgiveness. Just facts. I survived. Without him. That was December 2016. 2.5 years after he left. I was building a life. Healing. Growing. Becoming someone I actually liked. Someone stronger than the woman who'd begged him not to leave. I had no idea that 3 years later, he'd call again. That the universe was preparing a lesson for him. A brutal, perfect lesson about karma and consequences and what happens when you abandon people who love you. But that comes later. First, I had to become the woman who could face that call. The woman who'd be strong enough to make the choice I'd eventually have to make. First, I had to meet Tom. I met Tom Richardson in March 2017 at a hiking meetup on Camelback Mountain. Saturday morning. 7 a.m. start to beat the heat. Group of about 15 people. Mix of ages. All levels of hikers. I'd been going to these meetups for a few months. Liked the casual structure. Show up. Hike. No pressure to socialize beyond trail small talk. Tom was new that day. 51 years old. Tall. Fit in the way of someone who actually uses their gym membership. Salt and pepper hair. Kind eyes. He introduced himself to the group. Said he'd just moved to Phoenix from Seattle for work. Software engineer. Divorced. Looking to meet people and explore Arizona. We ended up hiking near each other by accident. Or maybe not accident. Maybe he positioned himself near me on purpose. I didn't think about it at the time. Was too focused on the trail. On not falling. On proving to myself I could still do hard physical things after cancer had tried to destroy my body. Halfway up, I had to stop. Catch my breath. My endurance still wasn't what it had been before treatment. Probably never would be. Tom stopped too. Offered me water from his Camelback. Asked if I was okay. Just out of shape, I said. Not mentioning cancer. Never mentioning cancer on first meetings. Didn't want it to define me. Didn't want the pity look. This trail is brutal, Tom said. I'm from Seattle. We have mountains but not this heat. I'm dying. We kept hiking together after that. Reached the summit. Took the obligatory photos of the Phoenix skyline. Hiked back down. He asked if I wanted to grab coffee after. There was a place near the trailhead parking lot. I hesitated. Hadn't been on anything resembling a date since David. Wasn't sure I was ready. Wasn't sure I'd ever be ready. But it was just coffee. Public place. Easy escape if needed. Sure, I said. Coffee sounds good. We sat outside at a small table despite the warming March heat. Talked for 2 hours. He told me about his job at a tech company downtown. About moving from Seattle after his divorce finalized last year. About his 2 grown daughters, Emma and Sophie, who still lived in Washington. About wanting a fresh start in a place with actual sunshine. I told him about nursing. About moving from Denver 2 years ago. About wanting a change. I didn't mention David. Didn't mention cancer. Just kept it surface level. Safe. He asked if I wanted to hike again next week. Same group. Same trail or maybe try Piestua Peak. I said yes before my brain could talk me out of it. We hiked together every Saturday for 6 weeks. Sometimes with the group. Sometimes just the 2 of us. He never pushed. Never asked why I'd really moved to Phoenix. Never pried into the gaps in my story. Just showed up. Made me laugh. Treated me like a normal person instead of a cancer survivor or an abandoned wife. In late April, he asked me to dinner. An actual date. Not coffee after hiking. A real restaurant. I panicked. Called Rachel that night. He asked me to dinner. That's great. You like him, right? I do. That's the problem. What if he finds out about the cancer and runs? What if I'm not ready for this? What if I'm too damaged? Sarah, you're not damaged. You're a survivor. And if he runs, he's not worth your time. But you won't know unless you try. I wore a dress to dinner. First time in years. Felt exposed. Feminine. Scared. We went to a small Italian place in Old Town Scottsdale. He pulled out my chair. Ordered wine. Asked real questions. About my family. My life before Phoenix. Why nursing? I told him about my parents in Ohio. My sister Emily in Colorado Springs. About always wanting to help people. About loving the hospital despite how hard it was. But I still didn't mention cancer. Couldn't yet. Needed him to know me first before knowing what had happened to me. He talked about his daughters. Emma was 26, working in marketing. Sophie was 23, in grad school. His divorce had been amicable. Just grew apart over 25 years. No drama. No betrayal. Just two people who became strangers. I envied that. The peaceful ending. No one left during chemo. No one cheated. Just mutual decision. Clean. Fair. We dated slowly through spring 2017. Dinners. Movies. More hikes. He was patient. Never pushed for more than I was ready to give. Never questioned why I tensed when he tried to hold my hand. Never asked why I always wore high-necked shirts that covered my chest. In June, 3 months after we met, I knew I had to tell him. Couldn't keep dating him without telling him the truth. About cancer. About the scars. About why I flinched sometimes when he touched me. About why I might never be able to have the easy, uncomplicated relationship he deserved. We were at his apartment. Watching a movie. His arm around me on the couch. Normal. Comfortable. And I just said it. I had breast cancer. 3 years ago. That's why I moved to Phoenix. Fresh start after treatment and divorce. He pulled back. Looked at me. I braced for it. The fear. The retreat. This is too much for me. Instead, he said, thank you for telling me. That must have been terrifying. I'm glad you survived. Not pity. Not fear. Just acknowledgement. Gratitude that I'd trusted him enough to share it. My ex-husband left me during chemotherapy, I continued. Needed him to know all of it. 3 months after diagnosis. Said he couldn't handle watching me go through it. Started seeing someone else while I was bald and sick. I haven't dated anyone since. You're the first person I've even wanted to try with. Tom was quiet for a moment. Then he took my hand. I'm not him. I'm not going anywhere. But I understand if you need time. If you're not ready. I can wait. I started crying. Hadn't meant to. But hearing someone say they'd stay, that they'd wait, after years of being left, broke something open. He held me. Didn't try to fix it. Didn't make promises he might not keep. Just held me while I cried for the woman I'd been. For the marriage that had failed. For the fear that I'd never be loved again because cancer had marked me as broken. You're not broken, Tom said quietly. Like he'd read my mind. You're strong. Stronger than anyone I've ever met. And I'd like to keep getting to know you. If you'll let me. I let him. Over the next year, I let him see all of me. The scars. The fears. The nightmares about recurrence. The tamoxifen side effects. The medical appointments every 3 months. The way I panicked before every scan. All of it. And he stayed. Came to appointments when I asked. Held my hand during scans. Celebrated with me when results came back clear. Never made me feel like my cancer history was a burden. Just part of who I was. Part of my story. Not the whole story. By summer 2018, I'd been cancer-free for 4 years. Had been with Tom for over a year. Was happier than I'd been since before diagnosis. Had built a life in Phoenix I actually loved. Had proven to myself that I could be loved again. That David leaving hadn't been about me being unlovable. Had been about him being incapable. I'd healed. Really healed. Not just physically. Emotionally. Learned to trust again. To hope again. To believe in futures instead of just surviving day to day. And then, in February 2019, my phone rang. Number I didn't recognize. Colorado area code. I almost didn't answer. But something made me pick up. Sarah? It's David. 5 years. 5 years since he'd left me during chemo. Since he'd told me watching me suffer was killing him. Since he'd chosen Jessica over his dying wife. What do you want, David? His voice cracked. I need to talk to you. In person. It's important. Please. What do you want, David? My voice cold. Guarded. Tom looked up from his laptop across the room. Mouthed, who is it? I mouthed back, David. Sarah, I know I have no right to ask anything from you. I know what I did was unforgivable. But I need to see you. Please. It's urgent. We have nothing to talk about. It's been 5 years. You made your choice. I'm sick. His voice broke. I have cancer. Lung cancer. Stage 3. They found it 2 months ago. I start chemo next week and I'm terrified and I don't know what to do, and you're the only person who's been through this and I need you. The words hit like a punch. Cancer. David had cancer. The man who left me during chemo now had cancer himself. You're calling me because you have cancer? I couldn't believe it. The audacity. The universe's dark sense of humor. I made a mistake leaving you. The biggest mistake of my life. I've thought about it every day for 5 years. And now I'm facing what you faced and I finally understand, and I'm so sorry and I need your help. Please, Sarah. I'm begging you. Where's Jessica? Your wife. Why isn't she helping you? Silence. Long silence. She left. 2 weeks after diagnosis. Said she couldn't handle it. Can't watch me go through this. So she's gone and I'm alone and I'm terrified and I was wrong about everything and I need you. I hung up. Stood there shaking. Tom crossed the room. Put his hands on my shoulders. What did he want? He has cancer. Lung cancer. Stage 3. And Jessica left him. 2 weeks after diagnosis. Just like he left me. Tom's eyes widened. Karma. He's begging me to help him. Says he understands now what he put me through. That he's sorry. That he needs me because I'm the only one who knows what this is like. What do you want to do? That was the question. What did I want? Part of me wanted to hang up and never speak to him again. Let him face cancer alone like he'd forced me to. Let him feel the terror and abandonment and desperation. Let karma finish what it started. But another part of me, the nurse part, the survivor part, couldn't just walk away. Not because he deserved help. He didn't. But because I wasn't him. Couldn't be him. Couldn't abandon someone facing cancer even if that someone had abandoned me. I don't know, I told Tom. He destroyed me. Left me when I was dying. And now he wants me to save him? You don't owe him anything, Tom said firmly. Not one thing. If you help him, it's because you choose to. Not because he deserves it. I called Rachel. Told her everything. She was furious. Absolutely not. He doesn't get to do this. Doesn't get to waltz back into your life because suddenly he needs you. Where was he when you needed him? Screw him, Sarah. Let him figure it out alone. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. About David terrified and alone. About what that felt like. I'd lived it. Wouldn't wish it on anyone. Even him. 3 days later, I called him back. I'll come to Denver. Talk to you. Once. But I'm not promising anything beyond that conversation. I flew to Denver in early March. Tom offered to come with me. I said no. This was something I needed to do alone. He drove me to the airport. Kissed me goodbye. Said he'd be waiting when I got back. David and I agreed to meet at a coffee shop in Capitol Hill. Neutral territory. Public. Safe. I got there first. Ordered coffee. Sat by the window. Watched for him. And then I saw him walking up the street. I barely recognized him. He'd lost weight. A lot of weight. His face was gaunt. Gray. He moved slowly like every step hurt. He looked exactly like I'd looked during chemo. Sick. Frightened. Diminished. He sat down across from me. Tried to smile. Failed. Thank you for coming. I know you didn't have to. You're right. I didn't. My voice flat. Giving him nothing. I look terrible, I know. Haven't started chemo yet, but the cancer is aggressive. They say treatment will be brutal. Surgery isn't an option. Just chemo and radiation and hope. I know what the treatment is like, David. I lived it. Alone. While you were with Jessica. He flinched. I know. I was a coward. The worst kind of coward. I abandoned you when you needed me most, and there's no excuse. None. I've had 5 years to think about what I did, and I hate myself for it. You should. No sympathy. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Jessica left me exactly the way I left you. Said she couldn't watch me suffer. That it was too hard. Too much. I tried to tell her we made vows. She said she had to protect her mental health. Used my own words against me. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't so cruel. So now you understand. Now I understand. And I'm so sorry, Sarah. For everything. For being weak. For choosing comfort over commitment. For breaking your heart while you were fighting for your life. I don't expect you to forgive me. I just needed you to know that I finally get it. What I put you through. How badly I failed you. I took a breath. This was the moment. The moment I'd been both dreading and anticipating. I need you to know something, David. I survived. Without you. I finished chemo and radiation. I went into remission. I rebuilt my entire life. Moved to Phoenix. Started over. And I met someone. His name is Tom. We've been together 2 years. He knows about my cancer. About you leaving. And he's never once made me feel like my scars or my history are a burden. He stayed. Through appointments and fears and nightmares. He stayed. David's face crumpled. You're remarried? Not yet. But probably soon. He's a good man. The kind of man you should have been. David put his head in his hands. Started crying. Right there in the coffee shop. People looked over. I didn't comfort him. Just waited. I lost you, he said finally. I lost the best thing in my life because I was selfish and weak, and now you're happy with someone else and I'm dying alone, and it's exactly what I deserve. You're not dying. Stage 3 is serious but treatable. You can survive this. How? I don't know how to do this alone. I'm terrified. Every day. Can't sleep. Can't eat. Just think about dying. About what chemo will do to me. I don't know if I'm strong enough. I took a breath. Made my decision. I'll help you. But not the way you think. Not the way you probably hoped. He looked up. Hope in his eyes. I'll go to your first chemo appointment. Show you what to expect. Give you practical advice about managing side effects. Connect you with support groups. But that's it, David. I'm not your partner. Not your support system. I'm someone who survived what you're facing, and I'll share that knowledge because I'm a nurse and a survivor, and I can't watch anyone face cancer without help. Even you. That's more than I deserve. Yes. It is. And you need to understand something. I'm doing this for me. Not for you. I'm doing this because I need to be able to look at myself in the mirror and know I didn't become the person who abandons people. I'm better than that. Better than you were. I understand. And thank you. Truly. Even just one appointment, one conversation, it's more than I could ask for. There are conditions. You don't contact me outside of scheduled times. You don't ask me for emotional support. You don't confuse this with reconciliation or second chances. I have a life in Phoenix. A man who loves me. A future that doesn't include you. This is compassion. Not forgiveness. He nodded. Wiping his eyes. I'll take whatever you're willing to give. And Sarah, I'm genuinely happy you found someone good. That you're happy. You deserve that after what I did to you. I gave him my phone number. Told him to text me his chemo schedule. That I'd fly back for his first appointment. Then I stood up. One more thing. Tom knows I'm here. Knows what I'm doing. He supported this decision even though he thinks you don't deserve my help. That's the kind of man he is. Remember that when you're feeling sorry for yourself. I walked out. Got in my rental car. Drove to Rachel's house. Told her everything. Are you sure about this? She asked. No. But I have to do it anyway. David's first chemo appointment was April 8, 2019. I flew back to Denver the day before. Stayed at Rachel's house. Met him at University of Colorado Hospital's Cancer Center at 8 a.m. He was already there. Sitting in the waiting room. Looking terrified. He stood when he saw me. Started to hug me. I stepped back. Shook my head. Boundaries. Thank you for coming, he said quietly. Let's just get through today. The infusion room was exactly like I remembered. Recliners arranged in rows. 4 poles. Nurses moving efficiently between patients. The smell of antiseptic and anxiety. I'd sat in chairs like these. Let poison drip into my veins. Survived. David's nurse was Mary. Kind face. Experienced hands. She got him settled in a recliner. Started his 4. Explained the drugs. Cisplatin and etoposide. Standard for lung cancer. Would take about 4 hours. Side effects would start in a few days. I sat in the chair next to him. Not holding his hand. Just present. Answering questions. Explaining what to expect. The nausea will hit around day 3. Take the anti-nausea meds they prescribe even if you feel okay. Don't wait until you're throwing up. Stay ahead of it. He nodded. Taking notes on his phone. Drink water. Lots of water. Flush the drugs through your system. Your taste will change. Everything will taste metallic or like nothing. Eat what you can. Don't worry about nutrition right now. Just calories. Survival. When does the hair fall out? 2 to 3 weeks usually. Shave it before it starts falling out in clumps. Easier that way. More control. He touched his hair unconsciously. Still thick. Dark. Soon to be gone. Just like mine had been. Just like he'd watched fall out and couldn't handle seeing. 4 hours later, his first infusion was done. He looked exhausted. Overwhelmed. Scared. Mary unhooked him from the floor. Gave him a folder of instructions. Prescriptions for anti-nausea meds and pain management. Schedule for his next appointment in 3 weeks. You did good today, Mary said to him. First one is always the hardest. You'll know what to expect next time. David stood slowly. Unsteady. I stayed close in case he fell. Outside in the parking lot, he stopped. Turned to me. I get it now. What you went through. Sitting in that chair. Knowing poison is going into your body. Knowing it's going to make you sicker before it makes you better. Knowing you have months of this ahead. And I wasn't there for you. I left you to face this alone. Yes. You did. How did you survive it? Without anyone? I had Rachel. My mom. My sister. A support group. My oncology team. I wasn't completely alone. But I didn't have the person who promised to be there. And that made everything harder. He looked at the ground. I'm sorry isn't enough. Will never be enough. No. It won't. But it's a start. Go home, David. Rest. Text me if you have questions about managing symptoms. But don't call. Don't ask for more than medical advice. I'm going back to Phoenix tomorrow. Back to my life. Will you come to the second appointment? I hadn't planned to. Had planned this to be one time. But looking at him, diminished and terrified, I couldn't say no. Maybe. I'll think about it. I drove back to Rachel's. She had wine waiting. Asked how it went. He's scared. Really scared. Kept apologizing. Finally understands what he put me through. Do you feel better? Having helped him? I don't know. I feel sad. For him. For me. For how badly he failed us both. But I also feel strong. Like I proved I'm not him. That I can face someone who hurt me and still choose compassion. I flew back to Phoenix the next day. Tom picked me up from the airport. Held me for a long time in the parking garage. Didn't ask questions. Just held me. How are you? He asked finally. I'm okay. It was hard. But I'm okay. And I'm glad to be home. Home. Phoenix. Tom. My life. Not Denver. Not David. Not the past. David texted 3 days later. Nausea had hit. Was throwing up constantly. Couldn't keep water down. Asked if this was normal. I told him to call his oncologist immediately. Dehydration during chemo is dangerous. He needed 4 fluids. This wasn't something to text about. He texted back an hour later. At the ER. Getting fluids. Thank you for telling him to go in. Over the next 2 months, he texted periodically. Always medical questions. Never personal. I answered when I could. Short. Clinical. The way a nurse answers questions. Nothing more. His hair fell out in late April. He sent me a photo of himself bald. Said he finally understood why I'd shaved mine. Control over something uncontrollable. I didn't respond to that one. Too personal. Too much like he was trying to connect emotionally rather than just get medical advice. In June, he asked if I'd come to his third chemo appointment. Said he was struggling. That knowing I'd be there helped him get through it. That he understood if I said no, but he was asking anyway. I talked to Tom about it. He said it was my decision. That he trusted me. That if I needed to do this, he supported it. But to remember I didn't owe David anything. I flew back to Denver in late June. Third appointment. Sat with him through another 4-hour infusion. Watched him sleep through most of it. The fatigue was setting in. The cumulative effect of poison. After, in the parking lot, he told me his scans showed the tumors were shrinking. Treatment was working. He might actually survive this. That's good news, I said. Meant it. Despite everything, I didn't want him to die. I know I have no right to ask. But would you consider coming to the last appointment too? Having you there, someone who survived this, it makes it bearable. I hesitated. This was becoming more than I'd intended. More involvement. More connection. But he was 2/3 through treatment. Almost done. And I'd come this far. I'll come to the last one. But that's it, David. After that, you're on your own. You'll have support groups. Other survivors. You'll figure it out. I understand. And thank you. For everything. You didn't have to do any of this. I know. David's last chemo appointment was September 12, 2019. 6 months after his first. I flew to Denver one final time. Met him at the cancer center. He looked better than he had in April. Still thin. Still bald. But stronger. Eyes clearer. Someone who could see the finish line. Last one, he said when I sat down. Can't believe I made it. You did. You survived. The infusion took 4 hours like always. We didn't talk much. Just sat there. Two people who'd both been poisoned to stay alive. Who'd both lost their hair. Both faced their mortality. Both survived. When it was done, when Mary unhooked him for the final time and handed him his graduation certificate, the one they give patients who complete treatment, David turned to me. I couldn't have done this without you. Without knowing someone made it through. Without your advice and your presence. You saved my life, Sarah. After I destroyed yours. I didn't save your life. The chemo did. I just showed you it was survivable. Still. Thank you. For being the person I wasn't. For showing me what actual strength looks like. We walked out to the parking lot together. Stood by our cars. This was it. The last time. I'd kept my promise. Helped him through treatment. Now I was done. What happens now? He asked. For you? I go home to Phoenix. To Tom. To my life. You do the same here. Join a support group. Connect with other survivors. Rebuild. You know how now. Will I ever see you again? Probably not. This was what I could give. It's all I can give. I hope you stay healthy. I really do. But we're not friends, David. We're two people who survived the same disease. That's all we'll ever be. He nodded. Eyes wet but not crying. I'm getting married next year. To someone I met in my support group. Her name is Linda. She's a breast cancer survivor. She understands this world. We're good together. Linda. The same name as my mentor from my support group. Different person but same survivor strength. I'm glad. Everyone deserves someone who stays. Tom is good to you? The best. He's everything you weren't. Everything I needed. We're getting married too. Next spring. That was a lie. Tom hadn't proposed yet. But he would. We'd talked about it. Planned for it. It was coming. And telling David felt right. Felt like closing a door I'd held open too long. You deserve that. Deserve everything good. He meant it. I could hear it in his voice. Real happiness for me. Not jealousy. Not regret. Just genuine gladness that I'd found what he'd thrown away. I got in my car. Drove away. Didn't look back. Didn't cry. Just felt relieved. 5 years after he'd left me during chemo, I'd helped him through his. Proven I was better than him. Stronger. Kinder. More human. That was October 2019. 5 years ago now. David survived. His scans stayed clear. He married Linda in 2020, small ceremony during COVID. I know because he sent me a wedding announcement. I didn't respond. Just filed it away. Evidence that he'd moved on. Rebuilt. Learned. Tom proposed to me in December 2019, 3 months after David's last chemo. On top of Camelback Mountain where we'd met. I said yes before he finished asking. We married in March 2020, right before COVID shut everything down. Small ceremony. Rachel flew in. Tom's daughters came from Seattle. My family from Ohio and Colorado Springs. Simple. Perfect. Everything my first wedding should have been. It's 2024 now. I'm 55 years old. 10 years cancer-free. Married to a man who's never once made me feel like my scars are anything but proof of survival. Living in Phoenix in a house we bought together. Still working as a nurse. Still hiking. Still thriving. David is alive and healthy in Denver. 5 years cancer-free himself. Still married to Linda as far as I know. We don't have contact. Haven't spoken since that last chemo appointment. And that's exactly how it should be. Some doors close. Some chapters end. Some people exit your life and you let them go. People ask me sometimes if I regret helping him. If I'm angry that I gave him compassion he didn't give me. If I wish I'd let him suffer alone the way he'd made me suffer. I don't regret it. Not for a second. Because helping him wasn't about him. Was about me. About being the person I wanted to be. The person who doesn't abandon people even when they deserve it. The person who chooses compassion over revenge. Not because the other person earned it, but because that's who I am. I'm not David. I'm not Jessica. I'm not the person who leaves when things get hard. I'm the person who stays. Who helps. Who survives. Who thrives. And that's worth more than any revenge could ever be. Subscribe for more true stories about survival, strength, and choosing who you want to be even when someone else chose to be weak. Drop your city or country in the comments. Tell me where you're watching from. Because stories like this, they happen everywhere. People face cancer. People get abandoned. People have to decide who they'll be when the universe gives them a chance for payback. I chose compassion. But I also chose boundaries. I helped but I didn't forgive. I was kind but I didn't forget. And I moved on to a life so much better than anything I had before cancer destroyed my marriage and forced me to rebuild from nothing. He left me during chemo. 5 years later he begged me back. I helped him survive. Then I went home to the man who never left. And I've never looked back. That's my story. From diagnosis to abandonment to survival to the moment karma came calling. I'm Sarah. I'm 55. I'm 10 years cancer-free. And I'm proof that what doesn't kill you really does make you stronger. If you've been abandoned. If you've survived something that should have destroyed you. If you've had to decide between revenge and compassion. This story is for you. You're not alone. You're stronger than you think. And you get to choose who you become. Choose strength. Choose boundaries. Choose yourself.